Hello everyone and welcome to another question and answer. I think I've done a question and answer years ago, but this time it's a very special occasion because I've hit 6k subs and I'm very, very surprised, I'm very proud, and I am overall very thankful for that. Like seriously, I did not expect that, especially since I announced to not make Animesh videos anymore. I did not expect that. I'm super thankful for that. I really do appreciate every single comment you guys made. Honestly, it makes so much fun interacting with you all. Please note that my native language is not English, so I may or may not butcher the English language here a lot. I'm gonna try my best, same with the names. If I do pronounce your name wrong, I'm really sorry about that. I don't do it on purpose, I promise. So let's continue with your questions. First question by Christabel, I think. What is your favorite Game Boy? Well, my first and sadly only Game Boy ever was the Game Boy Color. I had this typical gray one with Pokemon Red on it, and I used to play it all day long until I got my very first Nintendo DS, like these very old, very big blue ones, with Nintendogs in a bundle, and that was the end of my Game Boy era. Next question by Waterhorse. What was the first wolf or dog OC you ever made? My very first OC was Sam, the character you see on screen now. I used to draw her mostly for venting and expressing myself, kinda. The first story-based characters I created were Sam. I kinda love that name if you haven't figured it out. And Ginger. And their story kind of went from cute puppies to Romeo and Juliet kind of story. They've been redesigned because their first designs were absolutely horrible, like truly horrible. And one day they will actually reappear or make an appearance, and they're gonna play a big part of the stories of my current OCs. But I won't spoil anything yet because we're really far away from that. Do you have a favorite OC? If yes, which one is it? That's actually a pretty tough one. I think one of my favorite characters so far is Freya. I know I haven't showed a lot of her yet, mainly because drawing horses is so time consuming. But she's a kind of underdog character that nobody's rooting for and who'll get beat up by everyone and talked down. And she's still the kind of happy-go-lucky kind of character who will not let herself be dragged down by that. Another character I really like is Ina. She is currently still a puppy in the PMVs I create. But as the story progresses, you'll probably see why I like her that much, I hope. She's very ambitious and really loves her small family. And there were older PMVs I made where she's actually an adult. But yeah, we're gonna get to that when we get to that. What inspires the stories in your PMVs? Is there any special book, movie, or anything you like to get inspiration from? 90% of the time it's actually songs or music that inspire me. Of course, there are certain movies or series that inspire me as well, like for example Avatar: The Last Airbender or Lord of the Rings. But mostly I listen to a song and I feel like they fit a certain scene or character, and I just gonna start doodle to that, and yeah, that's kind of my professional process in that. What is your favorite book or movie series? Do you have some non-Animesh series you like? My favorite book and movie series is actually Lord of the Rings. I've started rereading the books and I often rewatch the movies, including the Hobbit trilogy, which a lot of people dislike. And I can understand after reading the book why some people would dislike it. And I mainly love these because of the world building and especially because of the characters and how three-dimensional they are. They're so well written, it's almost like they're actually real. I also really like the first 3 Jurassic Park movies and the first Jurassic World movie, even though the other Jurassic World movies, I think it was Fallen Kingdom and Dominion, they were not really my cup of tea. Absolutely not. Regarding the series, absolutely. I actually used to watch almost every animated series I came across. One of my favorites that sadly never been continued was Feral Pride. The last episode was uploaded 5 years ago, so I have little to no hope that they will ever continue the story. I also really liked My Pride, but not as much as Cow of the Wild, to be honest. Just the goofy characters, and the story getting more serious and violent kinda is what I enjoy. And no, your questions were not boring at all. I hope my answers weren't boring and that they were kind of satisfying. Thank you. Next question is by On Wings Like Eagles. How many characters do you have? I have way too many characters. I have over 15 wolf OCs and about 8 horse ones. Wolf OCs are always a problem for me since I tend to create too many of them. I just love building up backstories, and the more characters I make for the backstory, the more characters I need, you know. I've created characters that never even appeared in any video yet, but they will in the future. For an example, Lucia actually was a side character, and in the original story I was creating, you never even saw her grandmother, her mother, her father. These are all characters I specifically made just to get Lucia's backstory straight. What do you use for inspiration when coming up with new characters, like character art, concepts, songs, mood boards, etc.? I usually listen to video game soundtracks, movie soundtracks, everything that gets my inspirations up. Of course, I get inspired by series like Avatar: The Last Airbender because they have such a diverse cast of characters, not me fangirling at all. And my beloved Lord of the Rings movies. They gave me a lot of inspiration for character motivations, how to at least try to write more three-dimensional characters, because I personally always thrive to create characters that are not just evil or good, but somewhere in between, kind of like they are good, but they're not bad either. Like, kind of make them more complicated and more complex. And I think especially regarding more dimensional characters, I think Red Dead Redemption 1 and 2 and The Witcher 3 were also a huge inspiration for me, because you have characters that are mainly good but will do bad things and vice versa. And I think that's always that's a kind of compelling character I thrive to write. What is your PMV creation process? Most of the time it all starts with a song that really gets me hooked. Then I think about a character or maybe multiple characters that kind of fit this song. So once I settle on that, I start to sketch a storyboard, and it's usually really rough sketches. And I want to focus on what I want to show in these sketches. Like, the storyboard is the thing that is kind of like the base of the PMV. Making the storyboard can be kind of tricky, since sometimes it's not easy to show what you want to get across, especially when the song or the part of the song is rather short. I haven't overcome this problem myself, but I think focusing on the most important events and showing them is the most effective. So after the storyboard and the sketches are done, I go into some more detailed sketches, and I always make sure to compare the length of the scene and the part of the song. That's especially important because, one, it can get rather boring to look at one still picture for 30 seconds, and two, having too many pictures shown can be very confusing and makes everything feel a bit rushed. So the next step is to create the line art. I usually create black line art and do some minor adjustments if necessary. Spoilers, they're always necessary. After that, I go in and color these and shade and light them. I personally always create the backgrounds the last, because I hate doing them so much. I avoid making them until the very end. And last but not least, I edit everything together and upload it onto YouTube. Any advice for how to stay motivated and focused enough to fully finish a PMV? I think it's really important to give yourself time. Nothing kills motivation more than the feeling of you have to do something, you have to finish it. I personally noticed that this mindset makes me rush the project, which then leaves me really unhappy with the final video. Maybe re-listen to the song that inspired you, or rewatch the movie, or whatever gave you inspiration in the first place. Work on it whenever you are motivated, and don't force yourself to continue to work on it once you feel like you start to get sloppy. What also really helps me out a lot is not to work in order, like strictly from beginning to end. I occasionally draw scenes from the middle of the song whenever I feel motivated to do those. And I've noticed that it really boosts motivation to see how the video can come along. So just hop around, skip around, doesn't matter. Draw when you're motivated, and don't force yourself to continue if you start to notice that you're not motivated anymore. Same thing goes for the process in general. You don't have to go from storyboard to line art to coloring, etc. even though I recommend getting the storyboard done so that you have a general idea of what you actually want to do. I hope that this was kind of helpful. I'm struggling with motivation myself lately, so I hope this was kind of helpful. Next question by Chiara Leah. What editors do you use, and is there a free alternative for them? I use Sony Vegas 13 for editing and Procreate for drawing and animating. For editing, I've heard that KineMaster is pretty good, but I personally used to edit with Windows Movie Maker back in the day, before I had Sony Vegas. You sadly don't have a lot of features with Windows Movie Maker, but it's free. And for creating PNBs, for example, it works pretty good. For art stuff, before I had Procreate, I used to draw and animate with GIMP. It's a pretty good program, even though animating with it can be really annoying at times. But there are a lot of free and better programs out there as far as I've heard, like Fire Alpaca and Krita, even though Krita, for me personally, is way too complicated. Have you seen Finding Nemo or Finding Dory? Yes, both of them actually. I personally love fish and marine biology in general, so these movies are a must for me. Even though there are scenes that cause me pain for the inaccuracy, but we're gonna let that slide. What's the key to making great animesh? Well, that kinda depends on what you see as great. Good animesh, animations, or whatever it is you are creating always takes a lot of time and effort. With Animesh, the cleaner you create your maskings, the more time you'll end up spending on it. For example, a 10-second masking of Simba sometimes took me over an hour to create. The Zira Origin Jerome video, that's exactly the title, took me almost a month, and I worked daily on that, so yeah. Of course, you can always look on YouTube to find clips of already masked and green screen stuff, but always make sure to credit the original creators. I think the key of making a good and unique video is to find your own style. Some people enjoy making videos with a lot of effects and transitions. I personally prefer a more raw style with little to no effects or transitions, but that's because everyone has their own preferences. If that's not a satisfying answer, let me know and I'll try my best to find a more helpful one. Who is your inspiration? One of my biggest inspirations for writing stories is definitely Tolkien. Tolkien wrote the Lord of the Ring books and The Hobbit. One of the biggest inspirations when it comes to animation, though, is Aaron Blaise. He was a former animator for Walt Disney and created the character designs of the Beast from Beauty and the Beast and Raja and Jasmine from Aladdin. He was also in charge of the creation of the designs of Nala, Pocahontas and Yao from Mulan. He was also the director for Brother Bears, which is still one of my favorite Disney movies of all time. I'm gonna link his YouTube channel in the description and in the info box because it's definitely worth checking out. Next question by FulcrumStardust. What is one thing you really want to see in your lifetime? I really want to see the Northern Lights for once. I also really want to see the Colosseum in Rome. I've been to Pompeii and I've seen smaller ones, but you know, I kind of want to see the big one. Favorite natural phenomenon?
Aurora Borealis.
How do you like the writing therapy job? I love it, thank you. I've had my first few clients and I will never not be amazed at how much a horse or an animal in general can help us humans out. I literally had a woman crying when she arrived at the stable, and as soon as she saw the horse, all her worries were gone. Will you go bridge stomping with me? Oh, absolutely. We will find that bridge and we will stomp it until it doesn't know it's a bridge anymore. Next question by Orion's Arrow. What's your favorite TV show? I'm not much of a TV watcher, but definitely Avatar: The Last Airbender. I loved it as a kid and I love it even more as an adult because as an adult you start to grasp more on how serious and how deep the story actually goes. I also really do like Bob's Burgers, Gravity Falls, The Amazing World of Gumball, South Park is definitely high on the list. I'm currently rewatching Archer and I can't remember if that ever was a TV show, so if that doesn't count, just cut it out. And I have to say a guilty pleasure of mine, especially after night shift because my brain isn't able to focus on anything anymore after night shift, are TLC shows that don't require any particular brain activity. Since I'm from Austria, I don't really have TLC. We have the German version, RTL, which is pretty much the same. You know, it's the dumbest things you've ever seen. What character of yours are you most attached to? Definitely Lucia. She started out as a really minor character and wasn't even part of the original draft of the story. And now she's in almost every video because I just can't let her go. What's the most exotic animal you've drawn? I actually looked through my old folders in hopes of finding anything remotely exotic, but all I found were some really cringy old wolf OCs, horses, and that's kind of it. But I found a panda, and I assume a panda is an exotic animal. I started drawing a snow leopard half a year ago, which I never finished. And I just remembered that I drew a tiger and geckos and snakes and stuff. And a zebra, if that is an exotic animal. So yeah, I kind of need to draw more. I kind of need to start making more diverse animals instead of just wolves and horses. Next we have DaffodilWolf. What inspired you to make your OC stories? I always loved to create characters and coming up with backstories to them. I'm a big fan of fantasy movies and an even bigger fan of good character writing, so I wanted to try that as well. My first stories were very boring and basic, but I think a lot of inspirations came from older Disney and DreamWorks movies. I still love to listen to movie soundtracks when I come up with new story elements to my characters. Maybe that's weird, but it kind of helps me out. It probably doesn't show, but a big inspiration for my wolf characters and the world surrounding them is from Lord of the Rings. I don't have the audacity to compare myself to Tolkien, because that would be blasphemy, but the entire world building and characters of the Fellowship really inspired me, and I kind of want to emulate that, even though I probably fail. For my horse characters, Red Dead Redemption 2 was the biggest influence. Again, I'm not comparing my silly little characters to someone as iconic as Arthur Morgan, John Marston, Dutch van der Linde, Uncle, but the entire theme of loyalty, betrayal, being good but doing evil deeds, having an inner conflict with yourself, it kind of stuck to me, and so I wanted it to come across with my characters as well. Do you have any big plans for your stories? Well, at the moment, sadly not really. I plan on focusing more on my characters, horse and wolf ones, in comic form, or maybe even an animated series, but more in a PMV style. But at the moment, I simply don't have enough time. And not to mention that I have no idea on how I would be able to get voice actors and how coordinate everything, because I'm overwhelmed with simply hosting a map. So yeah. So for now, the only plans I have is to continue the stories with PMVs. What is your favorite book series? I might have said that before, but Lord of the Rings, including the Hobbit book, really are one of my favorites. Even though I love fantasy, I usually read more educational books or biographies. I'm pretty boring regardless, folks, I'm sorry about that. Next question by Sheena Rail. If I butchered your name, I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. What's your favorite music artist? Definitely Pink. She was such an idol for me when I was a teen. It may sound weird, but she made me feel less alone because I was kind of an outcast in school. So her music really kind of supported me in my journey. Same with Bon Jovi. I grew up with his music and Bryan Adams as well. And my first animation video was actually with the Bon Jovi song It's My Life. It looks horrible, it's disgusting, but I was really proud of it back then. Also really enjoy Fall Out Boy, Linkin Park, Imagine Dragons, a lot of that. My taste in music is literally everything from Dolly Parton to movie soundtracks, especially Hans Zimmer. The only type of music that isn't my cup of tea is techno and newer pop songs. They just don't hit right with me. Next question by Laura. Do you like Lion King 1 and 2 movies? I absolutely love the first Lion King movie. It was the first movie I got to watch in the theaters, and it's still one of my biggest inspirations regarding animation and character building. Nala was always my favorite, just to get that record straight. The Lion King 2 was okay, but to me not nearly as good as the first one. The character designs were off, the bland Romeo and Juliet love plot kind of wasn't for me. Simba was way too unlikable in the second movie. The only thing I still admire or like about the movie was Zira and the music. The music was absolutely gorgeous. Are you going to Walt Disney World next year or not? I really wish I could, but sadly, nope. Are you going to Disneyland next year or not? I have some plans on going to Disneyland in Paris next year, but nothing is booked or fixated yet, so I guess we will have to wait and see. Do you like Goofy from Disney? Absolutely! I grew up with the Goofy movie, and no matter what some critics say, I love it. I also really love the Goofy series, and I watched it every day. Do you like Lady and the Tramp 1 and 2 movies? I do! Neither of them are my favorites, especially since there isn't a lot going on in the first movie, but I still think they're cute. The second one is much more interesting regarding plot, but I kind of have the same problem that I have with the protagonist of The Lion King 2. I don't like Scamp, and I don't like Kiara at all. I understand Scamp's desire for being free and roaming the streets. I was a teen as well, but I personally wouldn't backstab my dad, my family, for some weirdo who I met a few days ago with anger issues. Just my opinion though. That's also the same problem I have with Kiara from the second Lion King movie. She is such a brat. And Aloo from the Balto 2 movie, I kind of have a problem with these teen characters. I get it, you want to be free, you want to find yourself, that's okay. But I hate the fact that they all forget that, their family just wants to support them, just wants to be there for them, and they act so ungrateful. And yeah, rant is going to stop now. Next question by Queen Maps. Where is the one place in the world you want to visit? That's a pretty tough one. On one hand, I'd really love to see Norway or Australia, but I think the one place I really want to see is definitely Yellowstone National Park. I've seen countless pictures of it, and I definitely want to go there myself. Next question by Misty Paw. Are you doing an animated series? I would absolutely love to, but sadly working 2 jobs at the moment really doesn't leave me enough time with that. I'm also kind of intimidated by casting and coordinating voice actors. Same with the music, since I would definitely want it to use some original music. But things can change in the future. But for now, I simply lack the time. Next question's by XSeekerX. Your absolutely favorite fandom at the moment? I'm currently watching the One Piece live action series on Netflix, and I have to say it's awesome. I was a huge fan of the original anime, even though I can't remember a lot since it was a long time ago, and I didn't watch every episode. I was a kid back then, But so far, they've done an amazing job on it. For how long have you been on YouTube? My channel was created in July 2014, so about 9 years ago. And the first video I uploaded was 7 years ago, which is kind of crazy to me because that's a long time. Who is your main mascot / character? Sam. I created her years ago, way back when I was in high school, mostly to vent and just to portray myself, because drawing humans was and is still horrible and time-consuming to me. We went through some design changes, but she has always been a brown wolf. And despite what some people think, I'm not a furry. I always think it's hilarious when people are like, "Oh, furry." I'm like, no, but okay. Will there be a Christmas special? I'm currently working on a Christmas video. It's not gonna be anything special, sadly. But I was thinking about doing a giveaway of some sorts, like maybe draw some headshots for people who've been commenting a lot, or stuff like that. But I'm not too sure yet because, again, work tends to be kind of stressful around these days. Next question by Naya. I have a question. What did inspire you to make animations? Definitely old Disney and DreamWorks movies, especially The Lion King, and even more so Spirit. Spirit is and was always a huge inspiration to me. It was actually one of the first movies that combined 2D and 3D elements. Sometimes it's visible, but most of the time it blends in really well. Spirit also is one of my favorites because the lack of narration. Most kids' movies these days have a ton of narration because they don't think that kids will be able to understand what's going on without the constant explaining, while Spirit shows everything through emotions. I could talk about Spirit for hours, but I'll stop myself now. The idea of bringing your characters and stories to life was my main inspiration. I've grown more fond of old 2D animated movies ever since I started to animate myself, since I can not only admire their beauty now, but also the hard work and effort that has gone into their creation. Next question from Dreams to Dreams. What was the spark for your love of horses? When I was a kid, our neighbor had a stable, so I pretty much grew up with horses right next to me. Started to take riding lessons. I would just sit there and watch them, try my best to kind of learn or watch their behavior around. I'm not a horse expert at all, don't get me wrong on this, but I always thought it was so interesting. And ever since I found out that Breyers do exist, because we don't have them in Austria, like we don't have a store or anything, I've gone fully berserk and I have over 70 now, so yeah. Digitally, which program is more effective when creating a PNG or map part? I'm personally really happy with Procreate. I use it on my iPad and it really has a ton of features. I still have to try out Procreate Dreams that newly released, which is especially made to create animations. But I personally think that it doesn't really matter what program you use. I've actually seen great animations made with MS Paint where you can't even make layers. So I think it really is just a lot of dedication and practice. Have you seen Disney's most recent films Elemental and or Wish? I have watched Elemental and I actually liked it. It wasn't anything too spectacular, it wasn't kind of some new breathtaking thing. And I know that a lot of people disliked it or were like not giving it a chance in the first place, but I personally enjoyed it. There wasn't really a time where I was absolutely on the edge. And the ending was kind of predictable. It's not, at least to me, but I really enjoyed it. I haven't seen Wish yet. I've read some reviews saying that it wasn't good at all, but I still want to give it a watch once it's on Disney+. I'm kind of disappointed that they made it a CGI movie instead of making it 2D as they anticipated to do. I think it's good. Again, I don't know anything specific about the plot. All I know is that there is finally an evil character. I heard rumors that Disney used AI to create the songs and the script, which kind of worries me. I don't think Disney used AI or something. They were probably just bad, or they did a bad job with writing it. If you've seen it, let me know what you think. I always love to discuss movies. And I always love to be surprised by movies. And thank you for your nice words. I'm also kind of proud, to be honest. I didn't expect that. And again, thanks to everyone who has asked me questions, who has been commenting on my videos. It honestly means so much to me. We talked a lot about inspiration. And honestly, one of the biggest inspiration are the comments I get, especially on my story-based PMVs with my OCs. Because it's so motivating to read the comments of people discussing things. It's so intriguing, honestly. It makes so much fun and it's really, really motivating to continue this. I also want to thank you in general for every nice comment, for every thumbs up, for every time you share the video, for every time you watch the video. Honestly, it means so much to me. Like, you can't imagine how much this actually means to me. Really. Since this video is already getting a bit long, I want to wish you a happy new year. I hope you guys had a wonderful Christmas, Hanukkah, whatever it is you guys are celebrating. I hope you had a wonderful time with family, with friends, by yourself, with your pets, with your dogs, with your whatever it is you're having. I really hope you had a wonderful time, and I truly hope that next year or New Year's Eve will be as amazing for you as well. Thank you guys so very much. I can't say it enough because I feel like just saying it once is not enough. So I'm gonna say it one more time. Thank you guys so very much for always being super nice to me, always being supportive of me. And I truly hope that next year will be as great as this one. Hope to see you next year. Bye.
And with that, the 2023 season comes to an end. Good night.